You know what's funny? People love to say family comes first. They'll slap it on bumper stickers, post it on Facebook like it's gospel. But when it really matters, when it's inconvenient or messy or uncomfortable, suddenly, it's, you're taking up space, you've had your time, or my personal favorite, this just isn't working anymore. That's the one my daughter used on me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back 5 years, back when I was still useful. I was living in Kiel at the time, a quiet little street, 2 blocks from a bakery, with a creaky old porch and a row of lavender bushes my husband planted. Hans passed away the year before. Sudden heart attack while trimming the rose hedge. One moment he was there, humming to the birds, the next just gone. We were married 43 years. And let me tell you, he wasn't perfect. He snored like a bear and never rinsed his coffee mugs, but he loved me. I never had to question that. After he died, I kept the house spotless. I had time, too much of it, actually. Morning tea turned into lunch alone. I'd go days without speaking to anyone but the cat next door. It wasn't sad, exactly. It was just quiet. Then came the call. It was Anna, my daughter, my only child. She was crying. Mom, we're screwed. Sven got laid off, and the mortgage is eating us alive. Emma's tuition is due, and we can't even cover utilities this month. I didn't even blink. I told her, I'll help, whatever you need. 2 weeks later, I sold the house Hans and I built together, packed 2 old suitcases, took my wedding photo off the wall, folded up the blanket from our first apartment, and boarded a train to Munich. I didn't even take the antique dresser that was in our family for 3 generations, because family needed me. When I arrived, they welcomed me like a hero. Anna hugged me for too long. Sven gave me a strained smile and said, "We're so lucky to have you, Gerda. Emma, my sweet, beautiful granddaughter, and to me like she used to when she was 5. It felt right. Like maybe this was the next chapter of my life, one with purpose." They set me up in the guest room downstairs. No closet, barely a window, but I said nothing. It had a bed and a small bathroom, no shower, but I could manage. I gave them the money, euro 140,000, all I had from the sale of the house. They cried. Anna promised, "You'll never need to worry again. You're with us now." Sven poured wine. "To family," he said, and I believed them. The first few months were fine. I helped out around the house, cooked most meals, cleaned without being asked, ironed shirts and folded socks. I didn't do it to prove anything. I just wanted to be useful. They never said thank you, but I didn't expect it. I was just happy to hear voices in the morning, to feel like I belonged somewhere again. Emma and I would play cards in the evenings. She'd ask about her grandfather, about how we met, what school was like in the 60s. I'd tell her stories and watch her eyes widen in that way kids do when they forget you're old. It gave me life. But then, slowly, things shifted. Emma got busy with school and stopped coming home as much. Sven started leaving early and coming home later, barely acknowledging me when he walked through the door. And Anna Shay, just got colder. She'd look at me like I was a guest who'd overstayed their welcome, like I was one more dish in the sink. I told myself it was stress, that things would get better, until one night, I overheard her. She was in the kitchen, talking on the phone, whispering like a teenager hiding from her parents. She's always here. In the kitchen, the hallway, the laundry room. I can't breathe. I feel like I'm living with a ghost. There was silence. Then, quietly, "We have to get her out, before she starts getting sick or something. I can't take care of another person." I stood in the hallway, holding a basket of folded towels. I didn't cry, but something in me shifted. The final blow came a few weeks later. Emma came home for the weekend. She walked in, didn't even take off her headphones, looked me right in the eye and said, "You've already lived your life, Grandma. We need the space." Like it was nothing. Like she was asking me to pass the salt. Sven nodded from the living room. Anna didn't even come out. I smiled, nodded, and walked out. But here's the thing. They thought they were done with me. They forgot who taught them to hold a pen, who stayed up during fevers, who packed lunches with stupid little notes. They forgot I may be old, but I'm not weak. And I wasn't leaving empty-handed because I had a folder, a very thick one, with copies of the property agreement, bank transfers, signed receipts, one in particular, stating I had lifetime living rights in the house. I may not have said a word that night, but I had already started preparing my reply. And my reply would come with a lawyer. Asterisk, I didn't go to a hotel. I didn't cry. I didn't even call Ruth right away. I took the train 2 stops away and sat in a quiet cafe for 2 hours with a notepad, a pen, and a pot of weak coffee. Then, I made a list, a full page, of what they owed me, what I gave, what they promised. It wasn't just the money, it was the years, the trust, the unspoken sacrifices. I spent the night with Ruth. She's been my best friend since 1972. We worked together at the library. She took one look at my face when I showed up and didn't ask a single question, just said, tea or wine. I said, both. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Not a big firm. I wanted someone sharp, detail-obsessed, and just angry enough to take me seriously. Mr. Kleist was in his early 40s, balding with a voice like sandpaper and a mind like a steel trap. He didn't flinch when I told him I was suing my own daughter, didn't blink when I handed over the manila envelope full of documents. He flipped through every paper, nodding slowly. Mrs. Bergman, he said after a pause, if everything here checks out, and it looks like it does, you're legally entitled to at least half the property value, and potentially more, depending on how the funds were used. And my living rights, I asked, also valid. That clause is enforceable, especially since she signed it in her own handwriting, and there's a witness signature. I hadn't even remembered the witness. Turns out it was their old neighbor, Klaus. He always did love paperwork. By the end of that week, Kleist had filed the first notice, a formal demand letter, delivered by hand. I wasn't there to see their faces, but I imagined it. Sven in his bathrobe, Anna behind him with her mouth slightly open, and Emma just gone. They didn't call, not a word. 3 days later, their attorney called with some nonsense about reconsidering terms and private resolution. Kleist laughed. I don't think so, he said. We'll see you in court. Let me tell you something about the legal process. It's slow, it's cold, but it's relentless. Once it starts, it moves like a glacier and crushes everything in its path. While the case built up, I got busy. I started gathering more than just documents. I found out Sven had been working late at a co-working space with a woman named Lee, who posted just a little too much on Instagram. I printed screenshots. I found out Anna had used my signature to co-sign a personal line of credit. Forgery. Also printed. Kleist was impressed. You're scary, he said. I was a librarian, I replied. The tipping point came when the bank records arrived. We traced the 140,000 euros I gave them. Only 90,000 euros went toward the house. The rest, gone. Trips, electronics, school clothes for Emma. Yes, but also a new patio set. Some cosmetic surgery for Anna, which she told me was a dental emergency. And of course Sven's electric bike. They used me like an ATM, silent, guilt-free, zero-interest bank. And when the account was empty, they tossed it. But I wasn't empty. I was just getting started. A month later, Kleist served them with the court motion, partition by sale. Basically, if two people own a property and can't agree on what to do with it, one can force its sale. Anna could scream, deny, sob. The law was on my side. I did receive one call, from Anna Eilert. It rang 5 times before answering. Her voice was thin, tired. Mom, please, don't do this. We'll lose everything. No, I said. You'll lose everything. I already did. Silence. Then, you'll never see us again, if you go through with this. I paused, then said, wasn't planning on it. The official court notice went out 2 weeks later. They had 60 days to vacate or buy me out. Sven sent one last message. You were supposed to be family. I replied with a screenshot of the bank transfer. Captioned, I didn't expect it to feel good. Not really. When the auction date was set, I imagined I'd feel heavy, sad, maybe. This was the house I helped them buy. The place where I heard Emma's teenage laughter through the walls, where I folded Sven's laundry and hung up Anna's coats. But when I stood outside that house again, I didn't feel heavy. I felt clean. The front yard looked worse than I remembered. The hedges were overgrown. The window boxes I once filled with petunias were empty. The front steps had a small crack I told Sven about years ago. He never fixed it. Typical. Inside, they were packing. Anna avoided eye contact. Sven muttered something about lawyers ruining lives. I didn't answer. Emma wasn't there. I walked through each room, technically still half mine without a word. The kitchen still smelled faintly of cinnamon. I touched the edge of the table I once polished every Sunday. In the guest room, my old scarf was still hanging on the chair. No one had touched it. The auction happened 2 days later. Quiet, efficient. A young couple won the beta teacher and an artist. They were expecting their first child. I congratulated them, told them the sun hits the upstairs bedroom best in the morning. They smiled like I was someone's sweet grandmother. I didn't correct them. My cut of the sale was just over 220,000 euros. I bought a 2-bedroom apartment near the harbor. Nothing fancy, but it had a balcony, a working elevator, and a view of the water that made me feel lighter every time I looked at it. Ruth helped me pick out the curtains. For the first time in years, I got to choose my own furniture, my own silverware, my own life, and it was mine. The fallout came quietly. I heard from Ruth, who heard from her cousin, who heard from someone at church, that Anna and Sven moved into a rental flat 30 minutes outside the city. No garden, no guest room, no credit left. Sven's new employer found out about his side accounts during a routine audit, fired within a week. Anna, well, rumor had it she was teaching piano lessons out of their new living room. A few parents pulled out after news of the lawsuit spread. People love to whisper, especially in neighborhoods like that. I didn't gloat, didn't celebrate, but I slept better. Emma sent a postcard, a real one, stamped, written by hand. Oma, I don't know how to say this. I was wrong. I didn't understand what they did to you. I should have asked questions. You always had a place in my heart. I'm sorry, I forgot that. Love, Emma. I held the card in my hand for a long time. Then I placed it in a drawer, right next to the scarf and Hans' photo. Life didn't get magically easier. I still had mornings where I woke up and half expected to hear Anna's voice down the hall. But now those mornings were followed by walks by the water, by calls with Ruth, by puzzle nights at the community center, by peace. I didn't need a big house. I didn't need applause. I just needed space. My space. And now, I had it. Some nights, I sit on my little balcony, with a cup of peppermint tea, and just breathe. Not for any particular reason. Not because something happened. Just because I can. There's something deeply comforting about silence when it's on your terms. The kind of silence that doesn't scream loneliness, but hums with peace. For a long time, I thought growing old meant shrinking, getting smaller, quieter, less noticeable. I thought it meant fading into the background of your family's life, becoming a kind of ghost in your own home. But I was wrong. Getting older doesn't mean becoming less. It just means you've carried more memories, more losses, more truths, and I carried all of that until the day my own granddaughter, my sweet Emma, looked at me and said, "You've already lived your life." She didn't mean to hurt me. I know that now, but what cut deepest wasn't the sentence, it was that I believed her. For just a moment I actually believed I had nothing left to give, that I was a burden, that I was done. But that moment passed, because what they forgotten, what I had to remember was this. I built the life they're standing on. I worked double shifts so Anna could take dance lessons. I stayed up all night sewing Halloween costumes. I held my husband's hand through every doctor's appointment until the very last one. I didn't have my time. I made their time, and they repaid me with silence, with convenience, with a goodbye dressed up as necessity. So I responded, not with rage, not with revenge, but with resolve. I used what I had, what they never thought to check: my memory, my records, my rights, and I took back what was mine, quietly, legally, completely. People ask if I regret it, if I miss Anna, if I'd go back and forgive. The answer, no. I don't hate her, but I don't miss her either, because I finally stopped waiting to be seen. I started seeing myself. Ruth and I go to the movies every Friday. We argue about popcorn flavors and cry at bad romance films. I joined a local seniors writing circle. I even submitted a short story. Got published in a tiny magazine no one reads, but I keep 5 copies anyway. And sometimes, Emma calls. It's not often, but when she does, she doesn't rush. She listens, she asks questions, she tells me things. I don't know if our relationship will ever go back to what it was, but I do know she sees me now, and that's more than I had before. So if you've made it to the end of this story, thank you. Maybe you're a mother or a daughter. Maybe you're someone who gave too much, or someone who stayed quiet too long, or maybe you're just curious about what happens when the person everyone underestimated decides to take her life back. Whatever brought you here, Let me say this: you are never too old to set boundaries, to protect your peace, to stand up even if your hands shake, because dignity doesn't expire. If this story moved you, please give it a like, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and subscribe if you want more stories like this one. My name is Gerda, I'm 72, and I just took my life back. This was my story, and maybe, just maybe, it reminded you of your own.